Taiho was not a special man. He knew this about himself and had accepted it long ago. He was 28 years old, worked at a small company in Bizen, and lived alone in a tiny apartment. His days were all the same. He woke up, went to work, came home, ate cheap food, and watched television until he fell asleep. He had no girlfriend. He had no close friends. His parents called him once a month, and that was the most exciting thing in his life. That night was like every other night. Rain was falling outside his window. The sound was soft and steady. Taiho lay in his bed, staring at the ceiling. He was thinking about nothing important. Maybe he should buy new shoes. Maybe he should call his mother. Maybe tomorrow would be different from today. Thought it would not be different. Tomorrow never was. He closed his eyes and let the rain carry him to sleep. When he opened his eyes again, everything had changed. The first thing he noticed was the light. His bedroom had no windows that faced the sun, but now golden light filled the space around him. The second thing he noticed was the ceiling. It was not his ceiling. His ceiling was white and cracked in one corner. This ceiling was made of something that looked like liquid metal, moving slowly in patterns that made no sense. Taiho sat up fast. His heart was beating hard. This was not his bed. His bed was old and uncomfortable. This bed was soft like a cloud and seemed to hold his body perfectly. The sheets were made of something smooth and cool, a material he had never felt before. He looked around the room. It was large, larger than his entire apartment. The walls curved gently and glowed with soft light. Strange objects floated in the air, spinning slowly. There was no door that he could see, no windows, just smooth, beautiful walls that seemed alive. "I am dreaming," Taiho said out loud. His voice sounded strange in this room. "This is a dream." "You are not dreaming," said a voice. Taiho turned toward the sound and felt his breath stop in his chest. A woman stood at the foot of the bed. But she was not a woman. Not really. Not in any way that Taiho understood. She was tall, much taller than any human. Her skin was the color of the night sky, deep blue mixed with purple. Her eyes burned like two small suns, bright gold with no white around them. Her hair was not hair at all, but something like silver fire, moving and flowing behind her without any wind. She wore armor that looked like it had grown from her body, dark and shining, with patterns that glowed faintly. On her head sat a crown made of light itself. It looked like someone had captured stars and frozen them in place. She was terrifying. She was beautiful. She was impossible. "Do not be afraid," she said. Her voice was deep and smooth. It seemed to vibrate inside his chest. "I will not harm you." Taiho's mouth opened and closed several times before words came out. "What? Who? Where am I?" The woman tilted her head slightly. The movement was strange, not quite human. "You are aboard the Imperial vessel Eternal Dawn. We are currently in orbit above your planet." She paused. "You call it Earth." "Earth," Taiho repeated stupidly. "Orbit. Above Earth. Yes, I am in space." "Yes." Taiho looked down at his hands. They were shaking. He was wearing the same old tie shirt he had worn to bed. The same shorts. He touched his face. He felt real. Everything felt real. "Why?" he asked. It was the only word he could manage. The woman stepped closer. Her movements were graceful, like water flowing. "I am Empress Yuna of the Volanthi Dominion. I rule 11 star systems. I command the largest fleet in this sector of the galaxy." She stopped beside the bed and looked down at him. "And you, Taiho of Earth, are my selected mate." The room was very quiet. Taiho could hear his own heartbeat. He could hear the soft hum of the ship around them. He waited for the woman to laugh, to say she was joking. She did not laugh. "I do not understand," he said slowly. Yuna sat down on the edge of the bed. Even sitting, She was taller than him. Up close, he could see that her skin had tiny patterns in it, like stars scattered across the night sky. She smelled like something sweet, electric, like a storm about to break. My people can only have children with certain genetic matches, she explained. Her voice was patient, like a teacher speaking to a young student. These matches are very rare. We have searched for thousands of years across thousands of worlds. Our machines scan every planet for compatible beings. She reached out and touched his face. Her fingers were cool and smooth. 6 hours ago, our scanner found you. The match is almost perfect, the best we have ever recorded. There must be a mistake, Taiho said. I am nobody. I am nothing special. I work in an office. I eat instant noodles for dinner. I cannot even keep plants alive. Something changed in Yuna's golden eyes. It might have been amusement. It might have been warmth. The Volanti do not choose mates for their status or their achievements. We choose for what is inside, for the fire that burns in the soul. She leaned closer. And your fire, little human, burns brighter than you know. Taiho wanted to argue. He wanted to explain that she was wrong, that he had no fire, that he was just an ordinary man living an ordinary life. But before he could speak, a loud sound filled the room. It was sharp and urgent, rising and falling like a scream. Yuna stood quickly. Her armor seemed to grow thicker around her. Weapons appeared in her hands from nowhere. What is happening? Taiho asked. Her golden eyes were hard now, filled with cold anger. The enemy has found us. She looked at him one last time. Stay here. Do not leave this room. I will protect you. Then she was gone, moving through a door that appeared in the wall and vanished behind her. Taiho was alone, sitting on an alien bed, in an alien ship, above his own planet. His ordinary life was over. He just did not know it yet. The alarm kept screaming. Taiho sat on the bed, frozen, not knowing what to do. The room shook slightly, like an earthquake was happening far away. He could hear distant sounds, explosions maybe, or something worse. He wanted to go home. He wanted to wake up in his small apartment with the cracked ceiling and the noisy neighbors. He wanted his boring life back. But the bed beneath him was still impossibly soft. The walls still glowed with alien light, and he was still very far from home. A door appeared in the wall. Taiho jumped back, expecting danger. But it was not the Empress who entered. It was another Volanti, a male this time. He was tall like Yuna, with the same night sky skin, but his eyes were silver instead of gold. He wore simpler clothing, dark robes with glowing symbols. You are the human, the male said. His voice was deep but not unkind. I am Dohan, advisor to the Empress. She has asked me to explain things to you while she fights. Fights? Taiho stood up from the bed. Fights who? What is happening? Dohan moved his hand through the air. Suddenly, the wall in front of them became clear like glass. Taiho could see space outside, black and endless, filled with stars. And between the stars, ships were fighting. He had never seen anything like it. The Volanti ships were beautiful, long and curved, glowing with golden light. They moved like dancers, spinning and diving. But they were not alone. Other ships were there too, ugly and dark, covered in sharp edges and spikes. These ships were attacking. The Keth Hegemony, Dohan said. The name sounded like poison in his mouth. They have been our enemy for 300 years. Neither side can defeat the other. We are too equal in power. Why are they attacking now? Taiho asked. Dohan looked at him with those silver eyes. Because of you. Taiho felt cold suddenly. Me? I did nothing. I was sleeping in my bed. You do not understand your importance. Dohan waved his hand again, and images appeared in the air. Charts and graphs and pictures of DNA. The Empress has ruled for 150 years. She is strong and wise, but she has no heir. Without an heir, when she dies, our empire will fall into chaos. Civil war. Destruction. It pointed at one of the floating images. It showed two DNA patterns side by side, glowing and spinning. This is your genetic code. This is the Empress's genetic code. See how they fit together? Like two pieces of one puzzle. You can give her what no one else in the galaxy can give her. A child. An heir. A future. Taiho stared at the patterns. They meant nothing to him. He was not a scientist. He was just a man who filed papers and attended boring meetings. The Keth know this, Do Hwan continued. Their spies told them we found a match. They know that if the Empress has an heir, the balance of power changes. We become stronger. They become weaker. So they have come to kill you before the bonding is complete. Kill me? Taiho's voice was higher than he wanted it to be. They want to kill me? Yes. Do Hwan said it simply, like he was discussing the weather. 40 of their warships against our 12. They are willing to lose many soldiers to end your life. The ship shook again, harder this time. Taiho fell against the wall. Through the clear section, he saw one of the golden Volanti ships explode into pieces. Fire bloomed in the darkness of space, then vanished. We are losing, Taiho whispered. The Empress fights well, Do Hwan said. But his voice was not confident. She is the greatest warrior our people have ever known. But even she cannot defeat so many alone. Taiho watched the battle. More Volanti ships were dying. The Keth ships were everywhere, surrounding them like wolves around wounded prey. He saw Yuna's ship, the largest of the Volanti vessels, moving through the enemy. It was taking damage. Parts of it were burning. She's going to die, Taiho said. Because of me. Because they took me from my bed. Perhaps, Do Hwan agreed. Perhaps we will all die today. But the Empress chose this path. She knew the risks when she selected you. She believed you were worth the danger. Why? Taiho grabbed Do Hwan's arm. Why would she believe that? She does not know me. Nobody knows me. I am nothing. Do Hwan looked down at Taiho's hand on his arm. For a moment, his silver eyes seemed to see something that Taiho could not see. The Empress has a gift. She can sense the truth of beings. She looked at your file, at the information our scanners collected, and she said something strange. What did she say? She said, "This one has been sleeping. But when he wakes, the galaxy will remember his name." A massive explosion made both of them stumble. The alarms grew louder. Through the wall, Taiho saw something terrifying. Small pods, dozens of them, were flying from the Keth ships toward the Volanti vessels. They attached to the hulls like insects. "Boarding parties," Do Hwan said. His voice was now filled with fear. "They are boarding us." He grabbed Taiho and pulled him toward the back of the room. Another door appeared, leading to a smaller space filled with equipment. "You must hide here. I will seal the door. Do not open it for anyone except the Empress herself." "What about you?" Taiho asked. Do Hwan picked up a weapon from the wall. It looked like a rifle made of light and metal. It looked like a metal. "I will fight. It is my duty." Taiho was pushed into the small room. The door began to close. Through the shrinking gap, he saw Do Hwan take a position facing the main entrance. Weapon raised. Then the door sealed shut, and Taiho was alone in the darkness. He could hear sounds through the walls. Gunfire, screams, things that might have been roars from creatures that were not human. Not Volanti, not anything he wanted to meet. Taiho sat down on the floor. He wrapped his arms around his knees like a child. He thought about his apartment in Bizen. He thought about the rain on his window. He thought about all the ordinary days he had wasted. Never knowing they were precious. He thought about Yuna, fighting and dying because she believed he was worth something. And somewhere deep inside him, in a place he had forgotten existed, something began to burn. The sounds of battle grew closer. Taiho could hear screaming now, not just through the walls but somewhere nearby. He heard energy weapons firing. He heard bodies falling. He heard things that sounded like animals, hungry and angry. He was still sitting on the floor of the small room, arms around his knees, shaking. The darkness was almost complete. Only a small light glowed above him, barely enough to see his own hands. A voice came through the walls. It was Doan. He was shouting commands, telling others to hold their positions, to protect the door. Then there was more gunfire. Then a scream that was cut short. Then silence. Taiho held his breath. He could hear something moving in the room outside. Something heavy. Something that breathed in a wet, ugly way. It was walking slowly, searching. He thought about Yuna's words. She had told him to stay here. She had told him not to leave. She would come for him. She would protect him. But Yuna was fighting in space. Yuna was surrounded by enemies. Yuna might already be dead. The thing outside made a noise. It was almost like laughter, but wrong. Too many sounds mixed together. Too much hunger in it. Taiho looked around the small room. There was a weapon on the shelf near him. He did not know what kind of weapon it was. He did not know how to use it. But it was there, waiting. His whole life, he had waited. He had waited for things to get better. He had waited for something exciting to happen. He had waited for someone to notice him, to choose him, to tell him he was worth something. Now someone had chosen him. And she was dying because of it. Taiho stood up. His legs were shaking, but he stood. He picked up the weapon. It was lighter than he expected. It fit in his hands like it belonged there. The door that Doan had sealed was glowing red at the edges. Something was trying to burn through it. The metal was melting slowly. Soon, the thing outside would break in. Taiho could wait. He could hide in the corner and hope the monster did not find him. He could be small and quiet and invisible, like he had been his whole life. Or he could fight. He thought about his father, who had worked hard every day in a factory to give his family a better life. He thought about his grandfather, who had survived a war when he was just a boy. He thought about all the generations of ordinary people before him who had faced impossible things and refused to give up. He was their blood. Their fire was his fire. The door melted open. The creature pushed through. Taiho had never seen anything so terrible. The Keth was like a nightmare given form. It had 8 limbs, some for walking and some for killing. Its body was covered in hard shells, black and shining like the back of a beetle. Its face had too many eyes, all of them red and hungry. Its mouth was filled with teeth that moved even when it was not eating. It saw Taiho and made that laughing sound again. It was not afraid. Why would it be afraid? It was a monster. He was just a small human in borrowed clothes. Taiho raised the weapon and fired. The shot hit the creature in the chest. It stumbled backward, surprised. For a moment, Taiho was surprised too. He had never fired a gun before, not even a human gun. But somehow, his aim had been perfect. The Keth roared. It was angry now. It charged at him, all 8 limbs moving together. Taiho did not think. His body moved on its own. He jumped to the side, faster than he should have been able to jump. He fired again. Another hit. The creature fell, but was not dead. It reached for him with claws that could cut through metal. He rolled away. He fired again. And again. Each shot found its target. The Keth finally stopped moving. Its red eyes went dark. Its body made crackling sounds as it died. Taiho stood over it, breathing hard. His hands were still shaking, but inside him, something new was burning. Something that had been asleep for 28 years. He stepped over the dead monster and walked into the larger room. Dohan was on the floor, not moving. Other Volanthi bodies were scattered around. But Taiho could not stop now. He could not help them. He had to keep moving. The hallway outside was filled with smoke and fire. More sounds of fighting came from every direction. Through broken walls, he could see other parts of the ship. Kef soldiers were everywhere, killing and destroying. Taiho picked up another weapon from a fallen Volanthi soldier. Now he had two. He started walking toward the sounds of battle. He did not know where the bridge was. He did not know where Yuna was. But something was pulling him forward, guiding his steps. A Keth appeared around the corner. Taiho shot it before it could react. Another came from behind. He spun and shot that one too. His body moved in ways he had never trained, with speed and skill he should not have had. Later, the Volanthi would talk about what they saw. They would tell stories about the small human who walked through their dying ship like a spirit of vengeance. They would describe how he fought 3 Keth at once and killed them all. They would speak of how he saved wounded soldiers, how he never stopped moving, never stopped fighting. Taiho remembered almost none of it. He remembered only the burning inside him. He remembered only the need to find her, to save her, to prove that her choice was not a mistake. He killed 17 Keth on his way to the bridge. He took wounds that should have stopped him. A claw across his back. Acid blood that burned his arm. A blow to the head that made his vision go dark for a moment. But he did not stop. He could not stop. Somewhere ahead, Yuna was fighting alone. And Taiho, who had never been brave a single day in his life, was coming to help her. The doors to the bridge were bent and broken. Inside, he could hear the sounds of combat. One voice was giving commands in a language he did not understand. One monster was roaring in victory. Taiho kicked open what remained of the doors and stepped through. It was time to show the galaxy what a human could do. The bridge was a place of death. Bodies of Volanthi warriors lay everywhere, their silver blood pooling on the floor. Consoles were destroyed, sparking and smoking. The great windows at the front of the room showed space outside, filled with the lights of battle still raging. In the center of it all, Yuna was fighting. She was wounded. Taiho could see silver blood running down her arm, her leg, her face. Her beautiful armor was cracked and broken in many places. Her crown of starlight was shattered, only a few pieces still clinging to her head. But she was still standing, still fighting. Her enemy was the largest Keth that Taiho had ever seen. It stood twice as tall as a human, with arms thicker than tree trunks. Its shell was darker than the others, almost black, decorated with the bones of its victims. This was not just a soldier. This was a commander, a killer of killers. The Keth commander struck at Yuna with a massive claw. She blocked it with her weapon, but the force pushed her backward. She stumbled. Her wounded leg gave out, and she fell to one knee. The monster laughed. It was a horrible sound, like rocks grinding together. It raised both of its killing arms, ready to end her life. Taiho fired. Both weapons lit up the bridge with bright light. The shots hit the Keth commander in the back, burning through its shell. The monster roared in pain and surprise. It turned away from Yuna, looking for this new attacker. Their eyes met. Human and monster. Prey and predator. The Keth commander seemed confused. It had killed hundreds of beings across dozens of worlds. It knew the look of warriors, the stance of fighters. This small creature in thin clothes, bleeding from many wounds, did not look like a threat. That was its mistake. Taiho charged forward. He did not know why. He did not plan it. His body simply moved, carrying him toward the giant monster like a missile. He fired as he ran, each shot finding weak points in the Keth's armor. The monster swung at him with one massive arm. Tai-Ho slid underneath it, the floor scraping against his back. He came up behind the creature and fired into the joints of its legs. The Keth commander fell to its knees. It was still not dead. It spun around faster than something so large should be able to move. Its claws caught Tai-Ho across the chest, throwing him against a broken console. Pain exploded through his body. He felt ribs break. He tasted blood in his mouth. For a moment, his vision went dark, but he did not fall. Something inside him refused to fall. Tai-Ho pushed himself up. One of his weapons was broken. He threw it at the monster's face and picked up a blade from a fallen warrior. It was Volanthi made, glowing faintly with inner light. It felt right in his hand. The Keth commander was standing again. It was hurt badly, bleeding from many wounds. But it was still alive, still dangerous. It looked at Tai-Ho with its many red eyes, and now there was something new in those eyes, respect and fear. "What are you?" the creature asked. Its voice was harsh and broken, speaking a language that Tai-Ho somehow understood. "I am human," Tai-Ho said, "and you are going to die." They came together in the center of the bridge. The monster was bigger, stronger, trained for combat since birth. Tai-Ho was smaller, weaker, had never fought anything in his life until an hour ago. It did not matter. Tai-Ho moved like water, flowing around the creature's attacks. Every time the Keth struck at him, he was somewhere else. Every time it tried to grab him, he slipped away. And every time he saw an opening, he struck with the blade. Cut after cut after cut. The Keth commander grew slower. Its black blood mixed with the silver blood of the Volanthi on the floor. Its roars of anger became howls of pain. Finally, Tai-Ho saw his chance. The monster raised both arms for one final attack, leaving its chest exposed. Tai-Ho stepped forward, closer than he had been before. So close he could smell the creature's rotten breath. He drove the blade upward, through the gap in the armor, into what passed for the monster's heart. The Keth commander looked down at the weapon in its chest. Then it looked at Tai-Ho. Something that might have been surprise crossed its alien face. Then it fell, shaking the floor of the bridge. Tai-Ho stood over the body, breathing hard. The blade slipped from his fingers. His legs would not hold him anymore. He collapsed beside Yuna, who was watching him with her golden eyes wide. "You came for me," she said. Her voice was weak, but there was wonder in it. "You fought through an army of Keth. You killed their commander. You chose me," Tai-Ho replied. Every word was an effort. "You believed I was worth something. I could not let you die for a lie." Yuna reached out and touched his face. Her fingers left trails of silver blood on his cheek. "It was not a lie. I knew from the moment I saw your file. I knew there was fire in you." "I did not know," Tai-Ho admitted. "I thought I was nobody. You were wrong." Yuna smiled, despite her pain. "You were just sleeping. Now you are awake." Around them, the sounds of battle were changing. The remaining Keth were running, fleeing back to their pods and their ships. Without their commander, they had lost their will to fight. The Volanthi soldiers who survived were cheering, shouting victory cries in their beautiful language. Tai-Ho closed his eyes. He was so tired, more tired than he had ever been. The burning inside him was fading now, leaving only exhaustion and pain. But he was not alone. Yuna's hand held his, her cool fingers wrapped around his warm ones. They lay together on the bloody floor of the bridge, surrounded by the dead, while outside the windows, the enemy fled into the darkness of space. "Stay with me," Yuna whispered. "Stay with me, and I will make you a legend." Tai-Ho squeezed her hand weakly. "I just want to rest." "Then rest," she said. I will watch over you, just as you watched over me." And for the first time since he had woken up on this strange ship, Taiho felt safe. He let the darkness take him, knowing that when he woke, everything would be different. He was no longer nobody. He never would be again. Taiho woke up in a bed even softer than the first one. This time, when he opened his eyes, he knew immediately that he was not on Earth. The ceiling was made of crystal, showing a sky full of stars and 3 moons. 1 silver, 1 gold, 1 deep purple. He tried to sit up, but pain shot through his chest. He looked down and saw bandages wrapped around his body. His arm was covered in some kind of healing gel that glowed faintly blue. He was alive, but badly damaged. "You should not move yet." Taiho turned his head. Yuna was sitting beside his bed in a chair that seemed grown from living wood. She was wearing a simple white dress instead of her armor. Her wounds had been treated too, silver scars visible on her twilight skin. She looked tired but peaceful. "Where are we?" Taiho asked. His voice came out rough and dry. "My homeworld, Valanthus Prime." Yuna leaned forward and offered him a cup of something warm. "You have been sleeping for 12 days. The doctors were not sure you would survive. Humans are fragile." Taiho sipped a drink. It tasted like honey and starlight, sweet and strange. 12 days? Your wounds were severe. The Keth commander nearly killed you. Yuna's golden eyes grew dark with memory. "When my soldiers brought you to the medical bay, they thought you were already dead. But you kept breathing. You refused to die." "I am stubborn," Taiho said weakly. "My mother always said so." Yuna smiled at that. It was the first real smile he had seen from her, without pain or fear behind it. It made her look younger, softer, almost human. "The Keth have retreated to their territory," she continued. "They lost their commander and many ships. They will not attack again for years. Perhaps decades." She reached out and took his hand. "You saved more than just me. You saved my entire empire." "I did not mean to save an empire," Taiho admitted. "I just did not want you to die. I know." Yuna squeezed his hand. "That is why you are remarkable. You did not fight for glory or power. You fought because you cared, because you refused to let someone suffer when you could help." Taiho looked up at the crystal ceiling, at the 3 moons hanging in the alien sky. "What happens now?" "Now you heal." And then, Yuna paused. For the first time, she seemed uncertain. "Then we must decide what you want." "What I want?" "I brought you here without asking. I took you from your home, your world, your life. I told you that you were my selected mate, but I never asked if you wanted to be." Yuna's voice was quiet. "My people have traditions, ancient laws, but I will not force you into anything. If you wish to return to Earth, to your old life, I will take you back. I will never bother you again." Taiho was silent for a long moment. He thought about his apartment in Bizan, the cracked ceiling, the instant noodles, the job he hated, and the days that all felt the same. He thought about who he had been just 2 weeks ago. A man who believed he was nothing special. Then he thought about the fire that had burned inside him. When he fought the Keth, he thought about how it felt to stand up when everything told him to stay down. He thought about Yuna's hand in his, cool and strong. "Tell me about the bonding," he said finally. Yuna looked surprised. "You want to know?" "I want to understand. All of it. Who you are, who your people are, what it would mean to stay." So Yuna told him. She told him about the Valanthi, a species older than humanity by millions of years. She told him about their empire, 11 star systems filled with wonders he could not imagine. She told him about the bonding, a ceremony that would connect their minds and souls forever, letting them feel each other's thoughts and emotions. She told him about the child they could have together, an heir who would carry both their bloodlines, both their strengths, a being that would be something entirely new in the galaxy, and she told him about herself. How she had been Empress since she was young, watching her parents die in a Keth attack. How she had spent over a century alone, surrounded by servants and soldiers, but never truly seen by anyone. How she had almost given up hope of ever finding a mate, of ever having someone to share her burden. "I am not easy to love," she admitted. "I am proud and stubborn. I make hard choices. I carry the weight of billions of lives on my shoulders every day. Being my mate would not be simple." Taiho listened to all of it. When she finished, the 3 moons had moved across the sky. Hours had passed, but it felt like minutes. "I was invisible on Earth," he said finally. "I walked through my life like a ghost. No one saw me. No one needed me. I thought that was just how things were. I thought I was meant to be alone." He turned to face her, ignoring the pain in his chest. "Then you came. You pulled me out of my small life and threw me into an impossible situation. You made me fight monsters. You made me face death. And somewhere in all of that, I found something I did not know I had lost." "What?" Yuna asked softly. "Myself." Taiho reached up and touched her face, the way she had touched his on the bridge. "I do not know if I can be an emperor. I do not know if I can help you rule 11 star systems. But I know that for the first time in my life, I feel like I matter. And I know that I do not want to lose that feeling." Yuna closed her eyes. When she opened them, they were shining with tears that looked like liquid gold. "Is that a yes?" Taiho smiled. It hurt his broken ribs, but he smiled anyway. "That is a yes." 3 weeks later, they were married. The ceremony took place in the Grand Temple of Valanthus Prime, a building older than human civilization. Billions of Valanthi watched through holographic screens across 11 star systems. Taiho stood at the altar in robes of woven light, his wounds now healed into scars he would carry forever. Yuna walked toward him, beautiful beyond words, wearing a gown made of captured starlight. Her crown had been remade, brighter than before dawn when they pressed their foreheads together and their minds touched for the first time. Taiho finally understood everything. He felt her loneliness, her strength, her love. And she felt his fear, his courage, his wonder. They were different in almost every way. Different species, different worlds, different lives. But in that moment, they were one. The crowd erupted in celebration. Across 11 star systems, hope was reborn. And Taiho, the ordinary man from Bizan, who had gone to bed alone and woken as the selected mate of an alien empress, finally understood the truth. He had never been nobody. He had just been waiting for someone to see the fire